Well, hello again, football fans, and welcome to an absolutely amazing post-game episode of Miners Live here. I thought it might be a good idea to, since we are in the playoffs, I thought it might be nice to try to put together some post-game coverage. We've got games on Monday, games on Wednesday, and we've got games on Friday. So why not? Let's get together and let's break these games down. And who better than to break the games down with than my good buddy, Coach Forbes of the Mexico City Diablos. So with me here, I have Coach Forbes, and we're going to go over what I would probably safely describe as the wildest and craziest start to any RFL postseason in the 9-year RFL history. Listen, I haven't been here for all 9 of them, but I'm willing to bet for anyone out there that has been here for all 9 of them, there's no way that any other season has started this way with wild card weekend. So here we go, my good buddy Forbes. Welcome to the show. And I guess, what are your initial thoughts? Let's start with game 1 and the Boston Shamrocks going on the road to take on the Dallas Desperados. Give me your biggest takeaway from that game.
I think my biggest takeaway is that no matter who the quarterback is, the Desperados are just going to Desperado. They dominate the season, get to the playoffs, lose in the first round. I think, especially the start of that game, by far the worst start or worst half of Marquise Washington's season, and it just happens to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, so for those of you that didn't catch it, which I don't think there are any of you out there that didn't catch it, the Boston Shamrocks went on the road to face the Dallas Desperados, and you can see it right there on your screen. Shamrocks 41, Desperados 34. The game went into overtime. There's so much to go into about this game. You heard Forbes a second ago mention an absolutely horrendous start from Marquise Washington. But I think what I would do is I would take the opposite side of that, and I would say it was an absolutely great start by Tom Wilson and the entire Shamrocks team, right? They got up to an early lead. They were up 7-0 in the first quarter. I thought what I was most impressed about from Tom Wilson was the reads that he was making. He was making quick reads. If he had an open man, he was getting rid of the ball quick. And if he didn't have an open man, he was scrambling or even in some instances running with his legs. So I just thought that Tom Wilson looked really good early on. Obviously, you could make the case that things changed a little bit as the game went on. Tavion Hall got going a little bit, but you mentioned the 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions was in the end zone.
Yes.
Like you can't do that in the playoffs.
No, you can't.
You just can't. Like I can tell you firsthand, you cannot throw an interception in the end zone in the playoffs.
And then he ends his season by throwing an interception.
Yeah. And then, so 3 interceptions in total. And you could make the argument they were the 3. Listen, obviously, they are the 3 most costly interceptions of his season because of the magnitude of this game. But when you think about, let's just pretend that this wasn't a playoff game. Let's just pretend that this was week 5 in the regular season. To throw an interception in the end zone when your team is trailing, and then when your team is trailing and you get the ball, your first possession out of halftime, you throw another interception. Then your team gets back into the game. You fight, you kick and scream and claw your way back. You get it into overtime. I mean, I'm gonna play a clip here in a second. I don't want to spoil it, but you kick and scream your way back into the game, and then ultimately you've got the pick 6 that ends it. I'm going to try to.
And the one in the end zone was, for a quarterback of Marquise Washington's talent, terrible. The corner's in front of the receiver. Like,
Yeah, and I would also say like I didn't like the first one. I think that was on a crossing route under the middle to Angel Rosemond. Look, Angel Rosemond is not what he used to be.
yeah,
He has regressed significantly, and I'm sorry, but I don't want a wide receiver with 86 speed and 79 catch in traffic to be responsible for catching bullet passes from Marquise Washington over the middle. I think Keith could have done a much better job of leading his receivers in this game instead of always relying on the bullet pass, especially when you're trying to throw. You saw what Angel Rosemond could do when you go play action and the defense is in zone coverage and you've got him on a bit of a seam route. If the defense falls for the play action, you got him up top for the big touchdown. But when you're trying to hit him underneath, he doesn't have that breakaway underneath speed. And I just felt like, this was a game that the Desperados could have won, and ultimately they didn't.
yeah. I mean, this is the game that Desperado should have won without those turnovers.
Sure.
But and you're exactly right, especially when you look at their roster and they have Cecil Austin III, who's the fastest receiver in the league.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. All right. So if you didn't get a chance, we'll go ahead and see if I can play it for you here. So let's see. See if I can do this for you guys here. All right, so we got it up here. So here is what's funny about this is I guess this is where if I had the bell, I would play it for Rob and shout out to Rob for doing a great job on the call. Probably one of the best games that he's ever called. I don't mean by him calling games. I just mean one of the best games that he has had the opportunity to call. And so here is probably one of those moments that Rob would like to have back, as with less than a minute left, the Dallas Desperados thought they had the game won. And if you listen closely, Rob also thought that the Desperados had the game won. Here you go. Let's see if we can get it to go here. You gotta love technical difficulties. Oh, all right, hold on.
Did it open it on a different screen?
It did. Of course it did. Of course it did. I should have known better. Let's do this. Stop screen. And then go. Where'd we go? You blew it. Your boy blew it.
Rob's billing you in the chat.
Is he there?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's for you, Rob. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Now you have the whole game plan.
Oh, that's not the one either. I blew it. Gee, now you can bell me. I can't get the right game up. Here we go. Let's try this one. Rob's just like, I don't want to hear it. Just keep stalling. Here we go. Is this? No, that's not it. Oh, what happened?
Same, Rob. I can't believe either one of these teams sold.
Either one of them what?
Rob was saying he can't believe the Desperado sold, but I was saying the same thing goes for the late game.
Why can't I get it to play? Nope. Let's go this route. Here we go.
Oh, you know what, Ben? Always smooth over here.
Sometimes you just wish that they would make things a little bit easier. But of course they don't. So you have to kind of have to go with what you got. And of course, this is not being.
While he's doing that, I did get the team stats pulled up, and I mean, it's what you would expect. The Shamrocks outgained the Desperados by 100 yards, 504 to 402, and they also had time of possession of 13 more minutes.
Yeah, and that's the big one.
Minutes to 25.
And that's the big one for me. Like anybody who knows me knows that there's three things that I want. There's ultimately throughout the course of the game, there's three things that I want. One of them is I want to win time of possession. One of them is I want to have the plus turnover differential. Mm-hmm. And the other one is I want to win third down conversions. Those are the big three. I feel like if you can convert more often than your opponent on third down, if you can possess the ball longer than your opponent throughout the course of the game, and you can take the ball away more than you give the ball away, you're going to, over the course of an 18-week season, you're going to make the playoffs. You're going to win more games than you lose if you can do that on a week-to-week basis. So, okay, I think I got it here. So let's give it a run. And we'll see if we can finally. All right, here we go. So here's the moment with 38 seconds left. Tom Wilson has the ball with a chance for the Boston Shamrocks to drive down the field, to get in field goal range, to win it in regulation. And it's just not at all what happens. Take a listen.
Oh, that's really choppy on my end.
Snatchies, it's a walk-off touchdown, Desperados. And at the time, I think we all felt the same way. I don't fault Rob for saying walk-off. I don't think any of us thought with 24 seconds left that we were going to get more football. I just don't think that we saw that on our bingo card.
No, you get a pick six to take the lead with less than 30 seconds left. That should be it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just ultimately an incredible play. And then
the Hail Mary that comes next.
Well, and then here we go. So we'll see if we can get get this one up too. So it's not a walk-off. Tom Wilson gets the ball back. The Shamrocks get the ball on their own 25-yard line with 25 seconds left.
And, when I saw that in real time, I blamed, as much as it's a great play by the receiver and the quarterback, for the DB to not know where the ball is and just runs 10 yards past.
Yeah.
Is terrible.
It's tough. And you guys can see it right here.
Taking nothing away from the play Tom Wilson made. But when they get to the film room to review this game and they see the corner just run past the ball, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, so here it is. Tom Wilson, 25 seconds. You see they're on their own 25-yard line, and he just rips off this 51-yarder.
And then just see the corner just to keep running.
And he just slips, right? Like,
yeah,
you can see it right here. Like, shout out to Tom Wilson. Again, what I alluded to earlier about him kind of avoiding the rush a little bit. You see him kind of slide right there to get behind the running back blocking. Saheed Gore, I think it was, great job of picking up the blitz and then that deep ball there, you don't see that very often. It's very rare to kind of underthrow the receiver
Yep.
and get rewarded for underthrowing. But that's exactly what happened. And Tom Wilson and the Shamrocks took advantage, and it's a credit to them. But that wasn't even it. That's not even where the craziness ended, right? Like,
No.
of course we have that. But then we go to overtime, and then we get into overtime. And, I mentioned this a little bit earlier on today. I really do feel like there are certain players in the RFL that they get way more run, and they get way more, pub than a lot of other players. And I understand, I get it, right? But there's a guy in the league who's really good, and he's really young. And for a Boston Shamrocks team that is also really young and probably in a position that they didn't expect to be in this early, right? Like, I think the kind of like the rejuvenation of the Shamrocks was expected to happen maybe next year, and moving into the future. I don't know that this was the year that we had the Shamrocks making the playoffs and then ultimately getting out of the first round. But they've got a guy in their backfield that I really like, and I don't think he gets enough credit. And so it is now my mission to make sure that everyone knows who Saeed Gore is, because ultimately you can talk about Tom Wilson and how he played in this game, and you can talk about the mistakes of Marquise Washington and how he played in this game as well. But you'll see right here, Saeed Gore, he had a touchdown in regulation, but then also in overtime. This is the one right here that, with about 8 minutes left, gives the Shamrocks the 40, eventually 41-34 lead. When he ran this ball in, Forbes, did you think the game was over right there?
Yeah, for the most part.
I mean, so it's funny. I actually, in the moment, I'm not even afraid to admit this, I completely forgot about the new overtime rules.
Both teams get a chance.
Yeah, so I legitimately was like, oh, that's a touchdown. This game's over. And then I immediately went, wait, it's not over. This is the playoffs. The other team automatically gets the ball back. But I don't think, with 2 interceptions already on the board, I don't know that we should have had a lot of faith in Marquise Washington.
Well, even
that
with
point,
that, it has to be backbreaking to get into overtime the way they did on that Hail Mary, after just getting a pick six with 30 seconds left and then giving up a 50-yard Hail Mary, going into overtime, and then watching them march down the field and score like it was nothing. Like, as a desperado, you could feel the life being sucked out of them.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of putting it. I think that's exactly what happened at the end of regulation. You could also make the argument that that's kind of what happened at other points in the game too. Like, when you look at the pick six that was thrown in the end zone, it just sucked the life out of the Desperados, right? They were trailing in the game. They couldn't really get a lot going. They get down into the red zone, and then a pick six. And then you get some points on the board. You go into halftime. You come out of halftime. You get the ball back. You throw another interception. Every single opportunity that they had to step up and kind of make a play, I think you said it best. They did something that just absolutely sucked the life out of them. Or in the case of some plays, the Shamrocks did something that just absolutely sucked the life out of them. And so, it is what it is. Ultimately, Rob had the great call here at the end, where he got this one right. Kind of hard to mess this one up, obviously. And so here it is. Here is the end of the Shamrocks and Desperados game. Take a listen. And that's it.
Yeah, I don't
You
think
heard you heard Rob. Man-to-man
No, I don't think
defense,
he
this
did hear
could be
Rob.
dangerous. What'd you say?
I said I didn't hear them. I'm not sure. I didn't hear. I can see the clip. I didn't hear it.
Oh,
I don't
you
know if
couldn't
they
hear the
can.
audio? Maybe I wonder if no one can hear the audio. So you can hear Rob. You can hear Rob on the call say it's lined up in man-to-man defense. This could be dangerous. And what's funny about it is when you say lined up in man-to-man defense, this could be dangerous. You're saying that thinking Marquise
Offense is gonna beat
Washington,
him off. Yep.
yeah, could do something big and beat him downfield.
Yep.
When in reality, the exact opposite happens. But it was still dangerous. They lined up in man-to-man defense, and it was still dangerous. And ultimately, the Shamrocks walk off with the interception in overtime, and they get the win, 41-34 in overtime. The number 2 seed Dallas Desperados are out.
The Shamrocks are going to see the Snowhawks next week.
Yep, and that is the first that we have locked in. As the lowest seed in the tournament, the Shamrocks will automatically face the number 1 seed, and that is the Portland Snowhawks. So shout out to everyone on the Shamrocks. I'm excited for them. As a guy who's originally from Massachusetts, I find myself, why not root for the Boston Shamrocks, especially because they're in the NRC, and I don't really have to worry about them all that much. So let's take a quick peek out at the chat here, see if what we've got. I haven't really had a chance to, dealing with some of those technical difficulties. Who we got in here? I see you, Rob. Ronnie Shanahan. Chosen's in here. Anthony Fry. Kenzo, what's up, buddy? Glenn Sharp. It's past my coach's bedtime. I feel you. MSJ, ESJ, a lot of SJ, EA. Roland, you're going to have to get out. You're not allowed to be here when I'm here for the next week. We're not friends. But yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. And then the second game, I guess here's what I'm going to say, and then I will let you say whatever it is. We have not spoken about this game prior to what you're going to hear right now. I would first like to give a shout out to the Memphis Steamers. They, in my opinion, had no business making the playoffs. In week 16, there was no scenario where they could make the playoffs that wasn't below like 5% on, the mathematical scale. As a matter of fact, in week 16, if the Columbus Explorers had just won, the Steamers would have been eliminated. Or if the Steamers had lost, the Columbus Explorers would have been in. And that was in week 16. And then ultimately 3 weeks worth of things happen, and the Memphis Steamers find themselves in the postseason. And, you can say, well, the division wasn't that great. Well, there's not much you can do. You play the games that are on your schedule. You play the teams that are in your division. And so, I'm not going to sit here and say that they didn't deserve to be in, because ultimately they're in the division that they're in, and they won their division. So if you win your division, you deserve to be in. That said, I do feel like they were probably, and you could make an argument between them and the Shamrocks, that they were probably the team that was least impressive throughout the course of the season. And then as much of a high as they may have been riding, because they won in week 18 and they got in based on all the other scenarios that happened, the Steamers get in, but they played a junior varsity team. They didn't play the Condors varsity club. They played the JV squad. And that's just a reality. I'm not knocking the Steamers for any of that. It's not their fault. Ultimately, they got the win. It may not have been ugly. It may not have been pretty. And at times it may have been extremely ugly. but they got the win, and all they had to do was win, and they get in. And they win, and they get in. And in the first 20 minutes of this game tonight, it looked like an entirely different team. It looked like you had bulletin board material from, I don't know whether it was from me or whether it was from someone else or whatever, completely motivating them to go out there and dominate and prove that it doesn't matter whether we're playing the junior varsity team or we're playing the varsity club, we're going to beat this Condor squad. And they were up 21-0. And it looked like a formality. And then they get outscored, 34-3 the rest of the way. And for as impressed as I might have looked or felt about the Steamers getting that 21-0 lead, by the end of that game, I found myself thinking this might be one of the worst playoff collapses that I can remember. And I'm sure there's other ones out there. And I say that, and this is just kind of one that's fresh, right? Because it literally happened an hour ago. But I don't know, Forbes, can you remember a playoff game that a team had a 21-point lead and just fell apart like this?
No, but I also don't think when you watch that game, I also don't really think they fell apart.
Sure, they fell apart in terms of the score, right?
In terms of the score, but if you look, and it's kind of what I said on the RFL podcast when I was on there. They were up 21-0. It was 2 defensive pick sixes.
Yeah. So the argument there is, did they really deserve to be right? It was like a weak 21-0, right? Because they didn't do much offensively.
Yeah. And so so they go up 21-0 off of 2 pick sixes. I mean, a 21-0 lead's a 21-0 lead, but you can see in the second half, a lot what you saw in the first half is that if the defense isn't making plays, the offense also isn't scoring.
Right.
And so eventually the Condors, McCoy threw off the Saturday week rust and started to get it going. And then eventually, once they picked up their pace, they started scoring. Well, the Steamers' offense never really started.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you bring that up because you're 100% right. The Steamers were up 21-0, but they didn't really have any consistency. They didn't have any sustained drives. Everything that kind of happened to give them that lead, with the exception of the one obviously offensive touchdown drive that they had early on, it was, you blinked and all of a sudden it was 14-0, and it was 14-0 the defense. And so are we that surprised that over the course of the next 3 quarters, the defense of the Steamers started to come back down to a more level, performance, and the Condors started to go up to a more level performance, and ultimately that's kind of what happened. And then the Condors just, they got some good breaks.
And I'm looking at some more the team stats now. The Condors outgained them by 200 yards on offense, 450 to 250.
Right.
Third downs, the Condors were 70%. The Steamers' offense went 1 for 7 or 14%. Obviously, they had the turnovers, but if you look, they didn't score in the red zone, which means their only offensive touchdown was a big play or a busted coverage, or it wasn't a sustained drive. It was, caught them lacking. Yeah,
I think for me the turning point, and I remember watching it, and I said, "Gee, I wonder if this is going to ultimately be the pivotal moment in the game." And I think rather than saying pivotal moment, I would say I think in my opinion there was a pivotal 2-minute stretch in the game, and it was the Steamers had the ball. They were pinned deep in their own territory, and the Condors got back-to-back sacks. Back-to-back sacks. They pinned the Steamers on the 1-yard line. They punt the ball. The defense holds. The defense does a great job and holds the Condors. The Condors go 3 and out, but the Condors special teams unit pins them on the 1-yard line. And then you get Amir Williams up the middle, stuffed at the line. And then I don't know if you felt the same way I did. I thought on that second Amir Williams run where I thought he was behind. Yep. I thought he was still in the end zone, and I was shocked that they didn't call that second one a safety. I thought for sure that second one he was still in the end zone and didn't get out. Ultimately, they said he got out. He was still on the 1-yard line. Then 3rd down, they don't pick up the first. And then on 4th down, Jacob Reed, who, is an all-world talent. And I'm glad that he had the opportunity to shine on the stage that is the RFL postseason. And he just runs roughshod right through the line. Didn't even have to put his arms up to block the punt. He blocks the punt. It gets recovered by the Steamers in the end zone, and ultimately they get that safety. And I feel like that 2-minute period right there, that then made the score 21-12. And I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be the play that we look back on and say, this is the reason why the Condors were able to come back and win. Or I also felt like this was going to be the play that we looked back on and said, this is the reason why the Steamers held on, because that being a safety is 2 points versus a touchdown would have been 7 points. And if that's a touchdown, I think it's over at that point. The Condors are definitely winning.
I'm pretty sure the Condors scored when they got the ball
on the next play.
Yeah,
right.
So they got the 2 points and then got the ball back and made it a 9-point swing instead of just a 7.
Right. And that was the Kevin Guyton touchdown. And then ultimately made it 21-19. And then I guess you could, if you're the Steamers, you're really kicking yourself because you then get the ball, you drive down the field, you're down 21 you're still up 21-19. You get the ball on the 1-yard line, and you've got an offensive holding penalty that pushes you back. And ultimately 3 plays later, instead of having a chance to get a touchdown to go up 28-19, you end up kicking a field goal to go up 24-19. And ultimately that kind of ends up being the difference in the game. You don't have that 2-score lead. It's a 1-score lead. And then Price Greer, who, I don't think I've heard his name called all year long.
Yeah.
I don't think half of the RFL community even knows who Price Greer is. And I'll give you, Smitty, you can give the 500 reloads that I have in my personal account right now. if anybody without cheating can tell us where Price Greer even went to college. I just think it's a great game by him. Ultimately, he gets the touchdown. They go up 25-24, and then the way that game ended.
I know Smitty doesn't like it when we say this.
But he said it. So I feel like we can say it. He said it first.
Like that's as what we say as coaches, the Steamers got maddened.
Yeah.
They
got jobbed by Madden.
There's no reason they should be lining up, especially when they're on the 20-yard line, a chip shot field goal,
right?
Lining up and throwing a pass.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple things. Like, one, why were you running a play at all? Okay, but if you're going to run a play, all right, fine, Madden logic.
Run the ball.
Why aren't you running a dive play up the middle?
Like field positioning
for field positioning, right, and then call a timeout and just kick the field goal. It really sucks. It does.
And then it was also one of those interceptions that we saw happen. It's the two of the same. Like, that's why I didn't like the McCoy interceptions. It's a flat that had been sitting there for 5 seconds, and the quarterback, well, I'm just going to throw it here, even though the defender is standing there.
Yeah. Listen, I think we can all agree there's no way that I'm the only one who realized the trend of this Madden. was that if you throw short out routes and you throw them late or not, it doesn't have to be late. I think, 50% or more of the time, if you run an out route to a receiver that is less than 3 yards or 4 yards off the line of scrimmage, and the outside corners are in press coverage, that ball is going to get picked off.
Yeah.
Right. Like we see it time and time again. And I bet you if you were to go back and you were to look at every single interception throughout the entire RFL regular season, I bet you the vast majority of them are outside the numbers. And I bet you a solid percentage of them are outside the numbers, right near the sideline, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And ultimately, that's exactly what we just saw. I know that, I can go back and count the majority of Miles McCain's interceptions, and a lot of those were exact plays just like that. And we saw it in the last play of the game, and it shouldn't have happened. It sucks that it happened. Owen Dunfield, he doesn't care, right? Hey, man, I'm in the right place at the right time, and I'm going to do what I'm paid to do, and I'm going to catch this ball. And he basically had his Cooper DeJean moment, right? Like, he basically looked like Cooper DeJean. This is my time to shine. I'm going to take this ball. I'm going to take it to the house, and I'm going to run all the way to, we don't know where they're running to yet, but he's running all the way there.
Yep.
And that was it. And you see Mix right here. I was shocked that Owen Dunfield came up big. Well, I think I don't agree with the wording of this take, right? Like, I think what we're shocked at is the idea that that play happened to begin with, right? Like, I mean, whether it's Owen Dunfield or, whoever else it might be, I think that play in general is just kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I guess to Mix's point, like Owen Dunfield is, who's Owen Dunfield? Who is Price Greer? Like, I mean, literally the Condors won this game and they got, massive production from guys that do not get talked about that often.
No, they don't, but it sucks, but can't change it.
No, there's not much you can do.
I do know ultimately that the user steamers are going off in the chat about getting Reed off the team.
About
just getting MVP last year.
Oh, Wagner?
Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, are you surprised?
No, I mean, Wagner's been up and down all year.
Well, that's fine, but I guess
the players.
Yeah, I mean, look at who the players are that are going off about it. I mean, every single time that's what happens. Like,
it's mainly who I remember him by for Rodney
Goins.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, dude. You're not even old enough to remember when Reed Wagner was the best quarterback in the RFL
last year.
I mean, so like, I don't like that. I think obviously guys are emotional right now. This is a tough loss. If I'm in that locker room with them, I'm pretty pissed. I'm pissed that we had the lead. I feel like we had the game in hand. I'm mad at our team for not, winning the game, but it's also very easy for me to be very mad at outside factors and outside influence. Call it what you want. Because it was kind of out of their control. Like in no world would any player or any coach ever run a pass play in that situation.
No.
You would either line up to run it, you would spike it, or you would just run the field goal unit out because you had plenty of time and kick the field goal. Like those are the three acceptable things that you could have done. I think Killian Bain made a point here that they may have been out of timeouts. I said they could have called a timeout. They may have been out of timeouts. They didn't need a timeout. There was plenty of time.
You want to dive, spike the ball, kick a field goal.
Right. There was plenty of time left. So you either run the ball, then spike it, or you go to the line of scrimmage, spike it right away, or you just casually roll your field goal unit out there. Like I don't know. It's a bummer. It sucks for the Steamers. I think they They didn't look very good against the JV Condors, and then they showed up and they looked pretty good. And I understand it was the defense that looked pretty good and not the offense. But ultimately, maybe rather than in the heat of the moment getting all emotional and erratic about the offense and Reed Wagoner and all this stuff, take some time, think about the offseason, think about moves that can be made. Maybe there's things that can be done to help Reed Wagoner on offense. Any last thoughts?
I was just trying to think of what to be changed. I mean, they already got like the best receiver core, one of the best O-line. You go to Neon and their team doesn't load. So,
well, yeah, I don't necessarily mean, like player wise. I just think that,
like a new system.
Yeah, like maybe it's a new system. Like maybe this just wasn't the best system for them. Like I don't know if you can see Neon's not accurate always with the playbooks that teams run.
They're in vertical zone run. It doesn't. I think
it doesn't tell play blocks.
Like,
yeah. I mean, ultimately I don't know. I don't know what else you can say. This is a tough one if you're the Steamers.
Yeah.
I think you were super happy to get in because there was a lot of people, myself included, who thought that there was no chance that they were going to get in. But then, as we looked at the standings, and I think it was week 17 or 18, and you're like, well, God, somebody's going to win this division, and they might be 8-9. Like we might have an 8-9. We talked about an 8-9 wild card team possibly getting in, and ultimately that didn't happen. They
ended up 9-8.
They ended up 9-8. But I think the excitement of getting in and then having the playoff game at home, which agree with it or disagree with it, say that they deserve it or not. Ultimately, that's the rule. You win your division, you get a home playoff game. It's got to be tough. Like I feel for the Steamers because I know exactly what that feeling's like. I know what it's like to win your division and go against a really good team that might be considered better than you, and you feel confident because you're at home and you're riding a high. And I can tell you, I know exactly what the feeling's like because 3 years in a row, I won the division, and 3 years in a row, I lost in the first round. And now this year, we barely get in. I mean, we needed the earth, the moon, the sun, all to line up at the same time. We needed Jesus Christ to go down and grab the hand of the devil and for them to shake hands in front of the entire RFL community in order for the Sacramento Miners to actually get into the playoffs. And somehow all of those things happened. And
yeah, they agreed to give Gino the MVP if he didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. And not for nothing here, but if you're a fan of the Black Knights, you owe me a thank you because thanks to Devin Wade throwing 3 interceptions against us in week 18, your boy Gino Gannon got the MVP. And we were also, if you remember, I believe it was against us that Gino Gannon threw 2 interceptions, I believe, and knocked himself out for a week back when we played the Black Knights then. So, whatever it is, the combination of Gino Gannon and Devin Wade did not play well against the Miners defense, but other teams did because we, barely got in. We'll see what happens on Friday. I'm not super excited because I look at Roland's team and, they might not be the number 1 seed and they might be playing without Jordy Johnson, but
they're still the number 1 offense.
They're still the number 1 offense. And, at least I can, look over my shoulder and I can say that we've got the number 1 defense. So
number 2,
right.
Offense.
Number 1. Yeah. So they have the number 1 passing offense and we have the number 1 passing defense. So, ultimately this is going to be one of those irresistible force versus immovable object type games on Friday night. And then you throw in the added rivalry because of Chum Lee playing against his former team. I don't really know what to expect. If our game goes anything like what we saw in these two games, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be mass hysteria. How many interceptions might Chum Lee throw? How many, how many
sacks is Miles going to take?
How many sacks is Miles going to take? Like, I don't even know. Like, we just might see, things that we've never seen before. I mean, we saw just tonight alone, we saw what many might call the dumbest play in RFL postseason history.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the most improbable play, or at least the most improbable
outcome,
38-second span of playoff history between the Juan Crosby pick six and then the Tom Wilson deep ball. I mean, I just don't even know. I think guys are going to have to go back and rewatch this. Good thing we've all got tomorrow off, because you've got time to rewatch all this and try to digest what happened, because it was wild. Tonight was absolutely wild. I often say when I'm watching games, boy, this game is drunk. Well, tonight was absolutely drunk, because there's no other way to there's just no way to comprehend or explain what we saw out there other than just a bunch of drunken debauchery. Like it was wild, and it was exciting, and it was everything that we wanted. I guess I don't know what else to say. Guys in the chat, if you have any questions on anything, we'll try to get out of here in just a couple of minutes. I'll give you guys a few minutes if you have questions on anything, or if you have particular comments about either one of these games that we may have missed, and we can highlight those and give our opinions on that. Or actually, we can look at, what we can do too. Let's look at the schedule real quick and see what you guys think. So Wednesday night, we've got the Brooklyn Bulls will be taking on the Cincinnati Hogs. And then in the late game, we've got Forbes here and the Mexico City Diablos. They will be taking on the Louisville Lumberjacks at 9:00. Wait a minute. Does that look right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bulls. I didn't realize the Bulls dropped.
Yeah,
well, that's right, because CT got the one. I forgot that. Yeah, I'm like, wow, they dropped to not even getting a home game. But that's right, because they didn't win. They didn't win their division. So Wednesday night, we've got the Bulls versus the Hogs. Who do you guys have in that game? And then the late game, we've got the Diablos and the Lumberjacks. I think I kind of like the Bulls in that game. So tonight I picked the Desperados and I picked the Condors. Ultimately,
I think that's what I ended up picking too.
Ultimately I got one of two right there. But it looked for a while like I was going to get both of them wrong. Wednesday night, you've got the Bulls. I'm curious to see what Ronnie Shanahan can do, but without Dre Shivers, I don't know what that offense is going to look like for the Hogs.
Yeah. Killian's asking who the X factors are. The easiest one to say is Ronnie Shanahan on the Hogs. With Dre Shivers out, they're only going to go as far as he can take them. It's the playoffs now. Every defense is good. It's not just theirs anymore.
Yeah, I think ultimately the X factor is the Hogs offense, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to say it's Ronnie Shanahan, but I guess we could just say it's the offense in general.
Yeah.
Because I think that – what'd you say?
With Shivers being out?
Yeah, Shivers being out, and I forget off the top of my head who the backup is. Was it Jacob something?
Let's see.
Haynes or Hines? What was –
both of those names sound right, because I bet they both exist somewhere.
Where is it? I got it right here. Jacob Haynes. So, I mean, ultimately, I don't know what to expect from Jacob Haynes. He's young. He's a bigger back, right? Like Trey Shivers is 5'10", 206. Jacob Haynes is 6'3", 220, but he's got 96 speed. So, like, you want to talk X factor, I could make the argument that Jacob Haynes is the X factor, because for as good as Trey Shivers was in this offense, he's an 88 speed, not 96. And he's 5'10", 206, not 6'3", 220. So, and even if you look at some of the other stuff, the awareness is not that far apart. The acceleration on Haynes is better. The break tackle is not that far apart. The carrying is not that far apart. The stiff arm, it's not crazy. I think the biggest.
Catching.
Yeah. Catching's going to be the big one. Jacob Haynes only has 39 catching versus Trey Shivers 68. Ball carrier vision from Shivers at 93, Jacob Haynes at 84. Like that could, we could see Haynes fail to find some holes that maybe Trey Shivers would have found. But ultimately, we might see Jacob Haynes hit the edges a lot better than Trey Shivers, and maybe the outside run works better for them. So, I guess I would lean Jacob Haynes as the possible X factor there for the Hogs. You're going Ronnie Shanahan. I think in the late game, I don't know if you've got a guy on your team that you like as an X factor. I think ultimately the X factor is Jordan Granger. I think he's kind of been the X factor all season, right? Like I don't think anybody expected him to be where he is.
No.
But
my X factor is just going to end up being my defensive front. Just got 11 sacks last week. If we get 11 sacks again this week, which extremely high number, the statistics say that you should win those games.
Right. What is Roland saying here?
He wants you to compare Shanahan to McCain.
In what regard? Okay, so
better than Shanahan. Right. What do you want?
I don't know. We can do like player comparison. We can go players. I can go compare. I can go McCain. All right, so there's Miles McCain, and then second player, I can go Ronnie Shanahan. Whoops. All right, so if we're comparing Miles McCain to Ronnie Shanahan, right? So Roland, here you go. You wanted me to highlight you? Done. Calling me out. Done. Highlight me now. All right, here you go. Miles McCain is an 84 overall. Ronnie Shanahan's a 75 overall. McCain is 6'3". Shanahan's 5'10". McCain is 228. Shanahan's 195. Basically, it's like David versus Goliath in terms of actual size. Attributes, McCain has better throw power, better deep ball, better mid, better they're tied and short, throw on the run, throw under pressure. Which I guess is to be expected, right? McCain's got an extra year. Shanahan's a rookie. McCain is at the end of his second year. So, everywhere that Miles is right now, could Ronnie Shanahan be next year? It's possible. It might be a little harder to get from a 75 overall all the way up to an 84. That's 9 overalls within 1 year. But it's also possible that Ronnie Shanahan gets to a 76 or maybe even a 77 by the end of this year. If the Hogs make a run, I don't know how close Ronnie Shanahan is to XP upgrade, but if he's close, he could easily get from a 75 to a 76. And then if you get to a 76, we've seen guys go 7 or 8 overalls in 1 year with reload purchases and also in-game upgrades. And if you hit some of your goals and all that. So I don't know. I don't know, I guess, what you wanted me to say, Roland. I hope that answered your question. I don't really know what you were hoping to get from the comparison. Or maybe you wanted a stat comparison. I don't know. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think you guys enjoy the day off. We've got the doubleheader back on Wednesday. He wants me to say who's better. Why? Why do you want me to say who's better? Why would you ask me that question? Like, obviously, I'm going to say my guy. I'm going to say that my quarterback is better. And quite honestly, that's not even me being a homer to my guy. That's literally me just being able to read. Like, Miles McCain is better. It's not a knock on Ronnie Shanahan. Miles McCain is just better. I mean, there's literally not really any area where you could say Ronnie Shanahan is faster than Miles McCain. If they were to line up and they were to run the 40, Ronnie Shanahan would win. So I guess there's that. But Ronnie Shanahan's got his team in a great spot. He's a rookie with an opportunity to get his team into the divisional round of the playoffs. It wasn't easy. I was critical of them many times this year because I just didn't see the consistency after they started hot. And I was right. I was 100% right. I predicted that it wasn't going to last. It didn't. I predicted that they should have gone out and gotten a veteran quarterback. I still think that they should have. Ultimately, they didn't, or not even getting a veteran quarterback. They could have just turned over to the veteran quarterback that they have in their own locker room for at least a couple games when they were going through the dry spell. What'd you say?
I was going through the skid.
Yeah. And I'm drawing a blank on his name.
The backup in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Jake McBride.
Yes. Right. Like you could have at some point during that, I think it was what, a 4 or 5 game losing streak, 6 game losing streak. Like they almost went on a losing streak that knocked them out of the playoffs.
If the Pioneers would have won, they would have been knocked out of the playoffs.
Right. But there was a scenario where they didn't even have they couldn't have had an opportunity had they lost like one more game during that skid.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just felt like at what point do you just turn it over to McBride for a week? Like, listen, I don't want my rookie out there losing 5 games in a row. I don't. Like, I look back at Miles earlier on this year when I think we lost 3 of our first 4 or 4 of our first 6 or something. And the amount of negative morale that we had on the team and the amount of attribute points that were being deducted from Miles more so than anyone. Miles is the one that took the biggest hit. At the time, I believe Miles was an 81 overall, and he was playing at a 77. He had like -4 to his playing weight, to his playing grade, simply because of the way that the team was performing and his overall morale. And I watching Ronnie Shanahan go through that, I felt for the kid, you know, and it sucks. But here they are.
Roland, I don't really know what you're asking me. Am I picking the offensive player of the year or a receiver who didn't hit 1,000 yards? It's like it's a different. Like I don't like Piku's at 99 and everything. I get that, but like that's not the same thing. That's an any given Madden kind of like before this season. Piku 100%. I think predicted Jordy Johnson was going to almost lead the league in yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't know. I think whatever team Jordy is on, you're going to say Jordy. Whatever team Piku is on, you're probably going to say Piku, right? Because I mean they're just both really good receivers.
Well, even I would pick Miles over Ronnie though. Ronnie literally averaged less than 200 yards a game. Roland, I don't know what you're trying. He had more interceptions than touchdowns.
Yeah, and like, listen, Miles didn't blow the doors off of anybody, but there were games where he played. There was towards the back end of the year where twice he should have won Player of the Week. There was one game where he had 3 rushing touchdowns and didn't win Player of the Week, and then the following week he had 3 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns. He had 5 touchdowns. Actually, it may have been 6 touchdowns but Madden took one of them away for some weird reason. What's that?
So the Crusaders game where you guys won like 43-42 something?
Yeah. And I mean, you look at that game, like Ronnie Shanahan hasn't come close to a game like that. 418 yards passing, and 4 touchdowns. And it was actually 5 touchdowns because I think he had 2 rushing and 3. Or no, he had 3 rushing and 2 passing, but for some reason, one of the passing touchdowns to Connor Jameson didn't. Yeah,
I'm looking at
didn't get recorded.
He had 4 passing, 2 rushing in that game.
Yeah, but they only gave him. Wait, what? No,
I'm looking at Neon. It says he had 4 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing in that game.
Oh.
When I look at his game log.
Yeah, but I think it's saying 4 touchdowns, 2 of which were passing and 2 of which were running.
It says 4 passing touchdowns and then 2 rushing touchdowns.
I don't think he had 6 touchdowns in that game.
Well, you scored 7 total, so.
Oh, well then maybe he scored 7. Miles was responsible for every single touchdown. The 7th one was Connor Jameson. Now go to week 14 and look at Connor Jameson's numbers. And I bet you he only has 1 touchdown.
Yeah, it says he only has 1.
Yeah, he caught 2. And then you go back and watch that game, he caught 2. And he got jobbed out of 1 because for whatever reason in the box score, it showed we had 1 point in the 3rd quarter, which is literally impossible to get 1 point.
Yeah, it's showing that you guys scored 49 points, but only have 6 touchdowns.
Right, which, again, isn't possible. So, so in that week 14 game where Miles had 7 touchdowns he was responsible for, he still didn't win Player of the Week, which is, wild. But again, there were some dry spells. Week 12, Miles threw 3 interceptions. Week 13, Miles threw 2 interceptions. Even week 14, that game against the Crusaders, he threw 3 interceptions. And then all the way back to week 7, this one, it was a little bit of an anomaly because it was one of those torrential downpour rain games. Mm-hmm. Miles had 4 interceptions, and I think Kyle Bain had like 5, or he had 3, and there was a lot of fumbles. I believe this week 7 game, there was 11 or 12 turnovers in total, and it was kind of like not even fun to watch because it was just every single time the team had the ball, there was a turnover.
Yeah, Roland, you're just arguing to argue. I mean, Miles, as of right now, Miles is the better quarterback. Who knows in 5 years from now? But
what are we? Yeah, okay. Here's a better way, Roland. Here's a better way to go about this and save us all the time. Just say, I think Ronnie Shanahan is better than Miles McCain. That's all you have to say. Don't sit here and ask us what we think. And then when we tell you what we think and we support it with attribute fact, statistical fact, turn around and tell us basically why you think we're wrong. Like, just tell us that you think Shanahan's better. That's fine. You're allowed to have your own opinion. I don't care. The only thing I care about is whooping your candy this week. That's all I care about. That's the only thing that matters to me. And I say that lovingly, but not really.
So then Roland, why make the comment in the first place if you're saying
I don't know.
You're saying McCain's better anyway, Roland.
I mean,
like, he just posted, but they're not the same guy. He's just whatever.
Right. Like, okay, so they're the same guy. I mean, what part of one of them is 5'10", 205, and one of them is 6'3", 228? leads you to believe that they're the same guy? Like, I don't know. I mean, okay, look, if you're saying that they're the same guy, then all right, Roland, let's go and look at. All right, and we'll get out of here shortly after this. I'm sure you don't want to be here much longer. Let's just do this. Let's appease Roland right now. Where is Roland's team? Right, like we're talking about an 85 versus what, Shanahan? A 74?
Yeah.
Right, so let's go to the Austin Armadillos. And let's look at their roster. Like he was saying Jordy Johnson. So Jordy Johnson's an 89 overall. What is Piku? Piku was like a 97. Was he 99 overall? I thought he was 99 speed. Yeah. So like in this offense, Jordy played well, and I could understand Roland saying he would rather have Jordy Johnson, but I also think that if you offered a trade and you offered him Piku McCullough for Jordy Johnson, he would probably take it.
He would say no, Roland.
Well, I mean, maybe, but I just don't understand a lot of the logic. I mean, I can look at the roster and be like, oh, you know, Mike O'Neill is an 86 overall corner. I'll give you Keyshawn Hendricks for him, who's a 75 overall corner. It's the same guy. I don't understand. Like, you know, but I don't know. I think this week's going to be fun. I think we got on a tangent there with Roland, but you know, the Friday night game is going to be fun. I think I don't like being the last game of the week, but
I'm sure Killian's loving it. He's not dying of anxiety right now.
Oh, I mean, it's not fun. I will say there is something to be said. I think you guys mentioned it on the podcast on Saturday. Yeah, my guys don't like being the last game of the week. They don't.
No,
and the worst part is we've been on the majority of our premier games have been on Thursdays. Mm-hmm. And what really sucks for the locker room is I'm recording those games on like Monday or Tuesday at the latest. And then they're not airing until, you know, the late game on Thursday, and they have no idea. And they know that I've already recorded it, but I don't communicate anything to them. Like, they have no idea. Mm-hmm. They know not even to ask. I make them wait because that's what they should do. But yeah, I don't love having the late game. I guess it's kind of nice that once our game is over, we will know 100% what, you know, the second round, the divisional round looks like.
You're up to the 17th, so you win. You know who you're playing either way.
Correct. Yeah. You know, and I think ultimately, I'm reserved. Like I'm a little bit more reserved to whatever happens in this game. I think in years past, I was really in a bad spot after losing those games, because every one of them, with the exception of last year's game, the first two though, we had. You
were in it, yeah.
And then, I mean, one of them we had it won. We had an interception in the end zone to clinch the game, and they called defensive pass interference. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. It took the interception off the board. It gave them the ball back. And then the next play, they ran it in, tied the game, went to overtime. We lost. And I was like, we just picked the ball off in the end zone to basically seal the win. And they called pass interference. And you know, it's tough. I do know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to to lose and know that that's 4 years in a row that we've made the playoffs and still haven't been able to get out of the first round.
I mean, I'm in the same boat, so I'm also
Yeah.
0-3 in the playoffs. I make it every year and then lose in the first round.
Yeah. I think the reason I'm a little bit more reserved to whatever happens is because honestly, we had no business.
Yeah. I was
We
going to
had
say
no
it's the difference
business
of
getting
sneaking
here.
in instead of like confidently winning the division, being the 2 seed.
Right.
And then,
I feel like that's what, if you're a Memphis Steamer right now, that's what you need to feel. You need to feel like exactly what I just said, because you didn't really have any business being there. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean the team was not, you weren't dominating all year long. You weren't running away with anything.
Well, I mean, I think that's how it is in the ARC granted, the Shamrocks just won, but they're really only, when you look at the NRC, like 4 real teams, I think people felt like. And the Snowhawks, Desperados, Condors, and myself were the only real teams that were good
because
year, showed all year.
Yeah, because weren't we at like week 17 and all 4 of those teams still had a shot for the number 1, right?
All 4 of those teams clinched by week 15, and then all 4 had a shot at the 1 seed in week 16.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. The playoffs are wild. I mean, that's why we love the RFL, but even more so now that we have the ability to put every team in the same file. I think it's a game changer. And who knows? I'm excited for our game this week because I like the fact that Jordy Johnson's not playing, and I think that gives us a little bit more, more hope. But still, it's the number 1 passing offense in the league. I think if I heard you correctly, they had 3,000-yard receivers on that team.
Yeah.
When you take one of them away, they still had 2,000-yard receivers on that team. I don't have a single 1,000-yard receiver on our team.
Yeah, they had Jordy Johnson with 1,500, Louis Luciano 1,200, and Chris Braun with 1,077.
Well, and Levi Dixon had what, 9 something?
865.
Okay, so you're talking about 3,000-yard receivers and basically a 900-yard back.
Yeah,
that's
a 1,600-yard from scrimmage back.
Yeah. So that's hard to stop. I don't care if you remove Jordy Johnson from it. Luis Luciano is really difficult to guard. I know because I was in the division with the Armadillos for 3 years and he tore us up. Even if we were beating them, he was still tearing us up. So, I mean, it'll be tough. Jordy Johnson won't be out there. I know Roland's going to be pissed about that. He's going to have to work around it. I can't imagine he's going to make too many changes. I don't know how frisky you want to get like the week heading into the playoffs. If you want to start moving stuff around and changing schemes and changing playbooks, I tend to think that that's a risky endeavor. At this point, you kind of, you win by the sword, you die by the sword. You win or lose with what got you there. You dance with the girl that brought you to the prom, so to speak. So, let's see. I am very appreciative of the fact that Miles McCain, after going through training this week, got a XP upgrade.
Okay.
And that XP upgrade boosted him 2 overalls. So just because we made the playoffs, Miles McCain ended up getting 2 overall.
Yeah, you get that training, yeah.
So we got that extra week of training. And it paid off. It paid off well for him. He went from I think 83 to 85 or 82 to 84 or whatever it was. So it remains to be seen. We'll take a last peek out in the chat and see if there's anybody who has anything that we may have missed, and then
it's just Roland.
We'll get out of here. Just Roland, just talking to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. All All right, Forbes, we appreciate the time as always. Take a day off tomorrow. And then we'll be back at it on Wednesday. Hopefully, if everything works out, I'll do the same thing here with you guys on Wednesday. Forbes, if you're free, would love to do it with you again on Wednesday night after those 2 games. We'll come on and try to do a little post-game recap. And that's pretty much it until Wednesday. Thanks again to Coach Forbes of the Mexico City Diablos. I am your host, head coach, and general manager of the Sacramento Miners. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.
See ya.